Logic 10.5 comes with a few new ways for us to use sampling. So gone is the EXS24. It's had a complete redesign and update with two new sampling instruments. We've got Sampler, which lets us use multiple samples, so really useful if you've got like an instrument that you've recorded a few different keys on, you want to map it out over the keyboard. And we've got this quick sampler, which we're going to have a look at first. This is a super quick, easy way of just getting a sample into your DAW and playing it back. So it loads up like this. It looks a little bit more modern than the EXS24, but essentially underneath all of this interface, it has the same controls. So you've still got your sort of region here to drag or drop your sample in. You've got a choice of modes, which we'll go through in a bit. And we've got a few kind of synth controls at the bottom. So you've got a envelope, so you can extend the release or maybe move the attack. You've got a filter. You've got this pitch control, lets you change the pitch. And you've got a couple of sort of light modulation options. The full sampler plugin has a few more options on this modulation, but you still do a few things with LFOs. So if I go to my samples here, just a quick and easy one. If I just drag in our card or kick drum, to get a sample up, you can drag it from the Finder, or you can drag straight from your project. You've got a choice here of original and optimized. So original is based on the EXS24. Drop it in and it will put it on the low C key for you to then pitch up and down, play around with how you want. You can trim it, you can change the volume, everything that you need to do and used to be able to do in EXS24. Optimize essentially automates all of that for you. So it will tune based on if there's any key information in the recording. Say you put in a file which starts on a E note, it won't automatically assume to start on the C. It will analyze that and pick that E note to start from. It also gets rid of any silence before or after the sample, and it kind of searches for loop points on longer samples. So optimize is generally the best if you just want a quick, easy sample. So let's drop this one in. So you can see straight away by dragging it into optimize, it's trimmed this little bit of silence before the sample. If I play a key on my keyboard, it will then let us play it back. And it's pitched it up and down. So that's my original pitch. And if I go a key higher, speeds it up, slows it down, stretches it, squashes it. Exactly the same as the EXS24 did. If I go to one-shot mode, it will play the whole sample. If I take my finger off the key, it still plays the whole sample. There's no kind of sustained stage on this, depending on how long your finger's on the keyboard, for instance. Classic mode lets you have a bit more control over the envelope. One shot, however, really useful for just simple drum sounds like this. For something a bit more involved, let's drag in our vocal sample. So this is our vocal pads we made by bouncing out a vocal through a Reverb plugin. Again, I'm going to go to optimized. So if you have a look what it's done, it's assumed that the root key is a G because the pitch of this is G. If we dragged it into EXS24, we'd have to manually determine that ourselves. But this has learnt that that was our original key. We have our envelope down here, so maybe if I play a chord on this, I think we can do with adding a bit of release. So let's just pull that release slider across this bottom right here. Maybe not quite that much. Just a little bit of a tail on the end. natural feel. I can turn my filter on, maybe roll off some of the high ends with the cutoff. You also have an envelope on the filter, which is quite useful. Say you want the cutoff to rise slowly with the attack. You can set that here. Pull the envelope depth up. You get that distinctive kind of resonant effect. Want it to be slower, pull the attack longer, maybe have a bit of sustain. Or you want it more faster. So you've got a few limited synth controls here. And then pitch, of course, you can fine tune it. Or tune it by a number of semitones. You just want to transpose your sample. This envelope depth allows you to put a bit of a pitch kind of bend into the sound. Again, maybe have a slow attack and let it have a slow pitch rise. Get some quite ghostly effects with that. Again, probably don't need it for this one, but it gives you an idea of the sort of things you can do. Finally, we have this loop point on here. So this yellow bit has been analysed by QuickSampler, and it says this is the loop we suggest you have. So this means when I play a key, it plays this first bit, and then when it reaches this loop point, when it gets to the end, it will loop back around, which lets you extend like shorter samples to make them longer. I can change that. Maybe I'll make it a bit of a shorter loop. Or I can loop a different point, maybe this end bit. And that way you can have your sample essentially last forever. Now I'll release my fingers from the keyboards, and that release will slowly tail off. If you have a use for QuickSampler is the slice mode. This lets us chop up, say, drum loops into individual transient hits. It's similar to the old transient mode rather than region mode on the EXS-24. If I just grab like a Apple loop, just pick a drum sound, drag it straight in. Again, I'm going to go for optimized. What this does, if it's on slice mode, it chops up each hit into a key on my keyboard. So that would be C, C sharp, D, D sharp. And we can rearrange the drum loop. If any of these you don't want, say that one for instance, we can just double click on this and it will delete that transient point, making the previous one a bit longer. Quite useful for chopping up kind of existing drum breaks, or even like resampling full songs, so to have a little play with. Finally, with QuickSampler, we have this kind of instant recording mode. This is really great for just grabbing a quick sample. If I press record, and I can just talk into my microphone, it will record what I just said. And let me play it back and make all kinds of silly noises. So that's Quick Sampler. There's quite a lot you can do in it, and really we've only just kind of scratched the surface.